Hi Dr. MUS'AB, this is my group slide presentation. So my group is consists of 5 of us, which is me, myself, YUVARAJ, KUNALAN 196320, FARAH, RAIHANA, HAZIQ, IRFAN, and PHAVANESYA. So our group decided to discuss about Chernobyl as our major disaster for the first assignment.
The explosion in Chernobyl, it happened in Chernobyl, Ukraine in 26 April 1986 at 1:22 a.m. So what happened was a combination of basic engineering deficiencies, misguided movements of the operators who are handling the reactor. Sequences of explosion, it totally destroyed the Unit 4 reactor. So what happened was the plant was in the midst of a shutdown when there was a power surge which led to the first explosion. Then combination of certain chemicals led to the second explosion. So the explosion itself, it started big fires which had been extinguished by firefighters, and approximately 20 hours after the explosion, the reactor set fire to flammable gases, and the giant fire burned for about 10 days continuously. Then helicopters helped to soothe the fire. The countries affected were Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, Scandinavia, and Europe. The radiation from the explosion traveled to these countries by dust and debris through the wind. And the accidents that occurred were at least 30 of the workers involved died, and the casualties include firefighters. The doses received by them were dangerously high that it resulted in acute radiation syndrome, also known as ARS, and the symptoms are gastrointestinal problems such as vomiting, and the other symptoms include fever and headache. The aftermath of this explosion is an area became known as the Red Forest because the plants and trees in a forest, it became red due to high levels of radiation. And more than 30 years on, locals were still exposed to radioactive contaminants through food and water supply. The effects include second-generation victims, which are local children. They have seen health problems and large thyroids, cancer, and also respiratory illness. Some children were brought on vacations away from Chernobyl to reduce their radiation level in their body.
So I will continue with the process hazard. The definition of process hazard is the presence of a stored or connected material or energy with inherent characteristics having the potential for causing loss or harm. There are two types of hazard, which are the material hazard, energy hazard, and also chemical interaction hazard, and defined as can be seen here. There were a few errors that happened leading to this Chernobyl incident. The first one is design failure, which comes from RBMK reactor and also control rods that made up of graphite, which leads to the loss event, which is the increased reaction in reactor causing the reactor instability. The second one is human failure, when the engineers insist on conducting the experiment even though it was in a high risk condition, which leads to uncontrolled reaction in reactor, backup electrical system disconnected, and also rapid buildup of neutron absorbing fissionable products in the reactor core, which poisoned the reaction. Number 3 is system failure, which is leads to the coolant water as the less effective neutron absorber. The impact were fires. 50 tons of nuclear fuel evaporated and were released by the explosion into the atmosphere, explosions, and also nuclear fuel mingling with a pile of structural debris onto the roof and also onto the grounds of the plant, which make the debris particle to be touched and release radioactive substances time to time. So, material hazard. The first one is U-235 uranium oxide, which is very toxic to inhalation and ingestion, damage kidneys, and also radioactive. Graphite, which causes eye, skin, also respiratory tract irritation. Nitrate helium that may explode if heated and may displace oxygen and cause rapid suffocation. Number 2 is energy hazard, which is the electrical, which is the voltage capacitance. The second one is nuclear, which is very radioactive. Number 3 is chemical interaction hazard. The first reaction is between zirconium and steam, which results in rapid reaction. And also the coolant, which is water here, that can change phase into steam and decreases the efficiency of it to absorb neutrons, making the reaction rapid.
Okay, so this is the timeline of the event. There are 5: hazard, cause, deviation, loss event, and impact. So we will see the next slide. The first one is hazard, the presence of a reactor in a nuclear plant. The next one, the cause, the workers violate the safety protocols and occurrence of power surge. The next one, the deviation, the reactor was in extremely unstable condition during shutdown. design peculiarity of the control rods cause power surge, interaction of very hot fuel with the cooling water led to the fuel fragmentation, the overpressure of reactor. And the next one, the loss event. An intense steam generation spread throughout the whole core causing the explosion. A second explosion throughout the fragment from the fuel channels and hot graphite. And the last one, the impact. The graphite and fuel started a number of fires. A total of 14 EBQ of radioactivity was released. Largest uncontrolled radioactive release into the environment ever recorded 10 days. About 200,000 people were involved in the cleanup who received high doses of radiation. The high doses were received by emergency workers and MUS'AB personnel.
Hi, my name is YUVARAJ of KUNALAN 196820. So today I would like to explain the causes of the Chernobyl disaster. Okay, so the first causes of the Chernobyl disaster is scarcity of the safety culture. The operator were not aware that the test performed could have caused explosion. And second, operational procedure were not followed. The RMBK reactor design was poor from the purpose of view of safety and unforgiving for the operators, both of which provoke a dangerous operating state. The operator were not informed of this and were not aware that the test performed could have brought the reactor into explosive condition. Additionally, they did not go with operation procedure. The mixture of those factors provoked a nuclear accident of maximum servicity within the reactor was totally destroyed within a few seconds. So one of the most crucial causes the accident is the massive positive void coefficient processes by the reactor. So most alternative reactor styles have a negative coefficient which imply the reactor responds to the formation of steam bubble by decreasing the heat output. This can be result as of if fluid contains many steam bubbles, fewer neutrons are caught up. The quicker neutrons are, in turn, less probably to cause fission of the metallic element atoms, therefore leading to power output. However, the RMBK reactor use has a positive constant which implies the reactor becomes terribly unstable at low levels and vulnerable to dangerous rises in energy production level. This was in every of the explanation for the reactor explosion through the urban center accident. So for the second cause of the disaster is flaw within the style and range of management rod in the reactor. So control rod regulate the multiplication factor K and absorb neutrons and then the second is the withdrawal of the rod causes a rise in K value. The rods were 1.3 meters shorter. The higher portion of the rod that acts to soak up the neutron actually. So when the rod is higher, it's actually better to absorb all the neutrons and all the neutrons. So once the rod were inserted, the graphite pipe displaced the coolant, resulting in a rise within a fission rate. Graphite is a powerful neutron moderator than light water. This resulted in a dangerous increase in power output. Furthermore, the number of rods used was 8, whereas the number of rods that should have been used in the reactor is 15. This flaw within the slide of range of management rod was one in every one of the necessary causes of the disaster additionally. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, so for the next part is the action taken by the government or to deal with the consequences. The first one, the Soviet government mobilized soldiers. Some of the waste was thrown off the facilities on the reactor's rooftop and the water on the exposed reactor was sprayed in order to keep it cool. The elimination of a fire with sand, lead and nitrogen to up to 2 weeks. Then the second one, workers were uptaken to limit their exposure to radiation. Within the 36 hours, the Soviet authority began evacuating the locals. The first few weeks greatly contribute to the reduction of thyroid doses. And then the third one, in the next few years, the government implemented extensive steps to decontaminating the settlements, removing substantial amounts of food from human consumption, treating pasture, providing the clean fodder to farm animals.
Next, I will continue with the public perceptions towards the nuclear energy. Countries that are geographically closer to the accident oppose nuclear power, causing the government to re-evaluate nuclear programs. But after some years, some previous nuclear program supporters support nuclear programs again, but with revision of safety policies. So number 2 is the policy adjustment. It's because the concern regarding public safety. So most countries enforce policy changes in their domestic nuclear programs and agreed on revised international policies. But some countries still did not alter their policies because they were phasing out of nuclear energy. The third one is human awareness. So public be immediately more fearful and opposed to nuclear energy. These issues leads to increased preparation and better handling for radioactive accidents that led to huge cooperation between industries and safety culture. Number 4 is the psychosocial effects and behavior. The socio-psychological dimension is people's perception of the risks involved in radiation. External community prediction lies at the origin of the psychosocial effects of the accident. So it ensures that future accidents have more serious psychosocial consequences. So the first one is fear, which is transitory and it can save lives, but when it's prolonged, it will be less beneficial. Social gap occurred when migration happened from contaminated areas. So an effect of changed behaviors was observed further. In Italy, there was a significant drop in live births because they believed that they did not want to conceive babies for a long duration of time. Also, the legacy of distrust that created them persists today because the lack of reliable information from the Chernobyl accident. The last one is risk perception. So based on research, the mean ratings show significant changes with the frequency of thought and discussion about a nearby nuclear power plant both increased. So basically, people are more worried about the incident risk that might happen. While the expectations of cancer and genetic effects decreased, public are more aware of the risk of the incident and they believe that more attention should be given to assessing the stability of risk perceptions over time.
From the Chernobyl accident in 1986, we can conclude that the cause of the accident is mainly a reactor design which is blemished, then the personnel with insufficient training who operated the equipment, the reactor, and a lack of knowledge and expertise in handling the equipment in the site. Steps taken from the Chernobyl accident, sending in soldiers and evacuating people in the settlement, then clean up the radioactivity at the site, and undamaged part of the site is planned to reoperate. Aftermath from the Chernobyl accident, we can see that some countries which are anti-nuclear regions decided to oppose with any nuclear power program, and people are afraid to settle in an area with a power plant in it, and also caused a decrease in the living birth. How to avoid this accident in the future? First, all the equipment utilized must meet the appropriate criteria. Then all the details, risk analysis, safety evaluation must be checked regularly. Then personnel should be trained sufficiently and efficiently to handle all the equipments in the site, and upcoming risks and damages should be properly prepared. The consequences of the Chernobyl accident is first, over 30 people had died in just a few weeks, and many cases of thyroid cancer were recorded. The psychological effects includes suicides, alcohol abuse, and apathy. The increase in leukemia and cataract risk who receive higher dosage of radiation. Then it was recorded that over 300,000 people were evacuated from the accident. That's all from us. Thank you.